When you watch a 22-year-old averaging 21 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists get so frustrated with your organization that he might actually leave, how do you sleep at night knowing you traded Alex Caruso for this disaster? The Chicago Bulls are on the verge of orchestrating one of the most catastrophic organizational failures in recent NBA memory, and it's playing out in slow motion for everyone to witness. What started as a seemingly reasonable trade, Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso, is rapidly transforming into a cautionary tale about mismanagement, miscommunication, and the devastating consequences of treating elite young talent like a negotiating adversary rather than a franchise cornerstone. The numbers tell a story that should have every Bulls fan demanding answers from their front office. After the All-Star break, Giddey exploded for 21.2 points, 10.7 rebounds, 9.3 assists, and 1.5 steals while shooting 50% from the field and 45.7% from three-point range. These aren't just good numbers. They're historically impressive for a 22-year-old point guard who was supposed to be the centerpiece of Chicago's rebuild. Instead of celebrating this breakout performance and building around their young star, the Bulls have created such a toxic negotiating environment that NBA insider Jake Fisher describes the Giddey situation as the most strained among all restricted free agents this summer. The relationship has deteriorated to the point where a mutual parting of ways is becoming a realistic possibility, which would transform the Thunder's trade from smart business into an all-time heist. Meanwhile, the Oklahoma City Thunder are sitting pretty as reigning champions, having acquired Alex Caruso, a proven winner, elite defender, and perfect culture fit, while watching their former lottery pick potentially implode with his new team. It's the kind of organizational competence versus incompetence that defines championship teams versus pretenders. The breakout that should have changed everything. Let's examine what Josh Giddey actually accomplished after the All-Star break, because his performance was nothing short of revolutionary for the Bulls' franchise trajectory. Averaging over 21 points per game isn't just impressive for a young point guard. It's elite production that suggests star-level potential. But when you combine that with 10.7 rebounds and 9.3 assists, you're looking at triple-double threat territory. The shooting efficiency makes these numbers even more remarkable. Shooting 50% from the field demonstrates improved shot selection and finishing ability, while the 45.7% three-point shooting suggests he's developed into a legitimate perimeter threat. These improvements address the primary concerns about Giddey's game when he was with Oklahoma City. For a franchise that struggled to identify and develop franchise-caliber talent, Giddey's emergence should have been treated like discovering gold in their backyard. Instead, the Bulls have somehow turned this discovery into a source of organizational tension and potential loss. The age factor cannot be overstated. At 22 years old, Giddey is just entering his prime development years. Players with his combination of size, court vision, and improved shooting typically become cornerstone pieces for championship contenders. The Bulls should be doing everything possible to secure his long-term commitment, not creating conditions that make him want to leave. The contract standoff, a study in organizational dysfunction, the reported $30 million per year contract demand from Giddey's camp has apparently created irreconcilable differences between the player and organization. From the Bulls' perspective, this might seem like an overpay for a player with just one strong half-season of production. From Giddey's perspective, it represents fair market value for someone who's proven he can be a franchise centerpiece. The problem isn't necessarily the money, it's the approach. Successful organizations find ways to make deals work when they identify franchise-changing talent. They understand that securing young stars early often provides tremendous value compared to waiting and potentially losing them altogether. The Bulls' apparent inflexibility suggests they either don't believe in Giddey's continued development or they're operating under financial constraints that limit their ability to compete for elite talent. Either scenario is problematic for a franchise trying to rebuild around young talent. Jake Fisher's description of the situation as not super amicable reveals organizational dysfunction that extends beyond contract negotiations. When relationships deteriorate to this degree, it often indicates deeper communication problems and philosophical differences about the player's role and value. The Thunder's masterclass in asset management while the Bulls struggle with their prized acquisition, the Oklahoma City Thunder are reaping the benefits of one of the smartest trades in recent memory. Alex Caruso's impact on their championship run cannot be overstated. His defensive intensity, veteran leadership, and clutch playoff performances were crucial elements in their title success. Caruso's fit with the Thunder was always going to be seamless. His defensive versatility, basketball IQ, and championship experience complemented their young core perfectly. He provided the veteran stability that championship teams require while maintaining the defensive identity that defines their success. The contrast in organizational approaches is striking. The Thunder identified exactly what they needed, targeted the right player, and integrated him seamlessly into their system. The Bulls acquired a talented young player and immediately created conditions that might drive him away. This trade comparison illustrates the difference between championship-level front office execution and organizational dysfunction. The Thunder maximized their asset value while addressing specific team needs. The Bulls potentially created a bigger problem than they solved. The ripple effects of restricted free agency, Giddey'S restricted free agent status, creates additional complexity that could benefit teams with available cap space and aggressive front offices. The Washington Wizards and Brooklyn Nets, among others, have the financial flexibility to offer substantial contracts that could price Giddey out of Chicago. The qualifying offer system that governs restricted free agency was designed to protect teams from losing young talent, but it can backfire when relationships deteriorate. If the Bulls and Giddey can't reach an agreement, other teams could exploit this dysfunction by offering contracts that Chicago is unwilling to match. The psychological aspect of restricted free agency also cannot be ignored. Players who feel undervalued by their current teams often welcome offer sheets from organizations that demonstrate greater appreciation for their contributions. This dynamic could work against the Bulls if they've created resentment through their negotiating approach. The championship window implications the Bulls' handling of the Giddey situation reflects broader organizational issues that could impact their entire rebuild timeline. Losing a 22-year-old who's shown franchise player potential would represent a devastating setback to their long-term competitive prospects. Championship windows often hinge on an organization's ability to identify, develop, and retain young talent. The Bulls have accomplished the first two objectives with Giddey, but appear to be failing on the retention aspect. This failure could haunt the franchise for years to come. The timing makes this situation even more critical. The Bulls are at a crossroads where they need to establish their foundational pieces for the next competitive cycle. Losing Giddey would force them to restart their search for franchise-caliber point guard talent, setting back their timelines significantly. The market dynamics and external pressure 3 months into free agency, the extended nature of these negotiations suggests fundamental disagreements about Giddey's value and role. The longer this situation persists, the more likely it becomes that external factors will influence the outcome. Other teams are undoubtedly monitoring the situation and could potentially exploit the dysfunction for their benefit. Organizations like Washington and Brooklyn have both the financial resources and desperate need for young franchise talent that could motivate aggressive offer sheet strategies. The pressure on both sides continues to mount as training camp approaches. The Bulls need roster certainty to build their system around available talent, while Giddey needs to secure his long-term financial future. This mutual urgency could either facilitate resolution or accelerate relationship deterioration. The organizational identity crisis, the Bulls' approach to the Giddey situation reflects deeper questions about their organizational identity and competitive timeline. Are they committed to building around young talent, or are they prioritizing financial flexibility over player development? Successful rebuilds require clear philosophical commitments and consistent execution. The Bulls appear to be struggling with both aspects, creating uncertainty that extends beyond individual contract negotiations to broader questions about organizational competence. The historical context NBA history is filled with examples of organizations that failed to retain young talent due to contractual disputes or philosophical differences. The Bulls have an opportunity to avoid becoming another cautionary tale, but their current approach suggests they might not recognize the stakes involved. The comparison with the Thunder's success adds additional pressure to this situation. While Oklahoma City celebrates a championship built around smart asset management, the Bulls risk becoming a case study in organizational dysfunction. The defining moment, the resolution of the Giddey situation, will likely define both franchises' trajectories for the next several years. The Bulls can either secure their young franchise player and build around his continued development, or they can lose him and face the consequences of organizational mismanagement. The stakes couldn't be higher for an organization trying to rebuild its competitive identity. This decision will either validate their asset acquisition strategy or expose fundamental flaws in their approach to talent management. This Giddey situation absolutely infuriates me because it represents everything wrong with how some organizations handle young talent. What's your take? Are the Bulls being smart by not overpaying, or are they about to make one of the biggest mistakes in franchise history? Do you think Giddey's demands are reasonable given his breakout performance, or should he be more patient with his development? Jump into the comments and let me know if you think this relationship can be salvaged, or if the Bulls are about to hand the Thunder an all-time heist. Hit that like button if you're as frustrated with this organizational incompetence as I am.